And we are back, episode 32 of Journey to a Million. Our quarterback preview is here on the podcast on this Friday morning. Myself, Drew Skyberg, Zack Rausch is here, Jared Valleskey as well. Full Journey Million squad, plus the man from the lockdown corner. We've had him on the show. He was on our draft episodes. He was a college athlete spotlight guest as well. Dustin Bergene, welcome to the show. How are you doing on this Friday morning?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I am wonderful. It's always fun to be on.
Always great to talk some football, right? Yeah, full squad plus Dustin here to do our QB preview. Kind of similar layout here to our episode last week with the running backs. We picked 5, but this time we also have a flaming hot take we'll talk about at the end. Plus we got a mailbag we'll talk about. We had some questions sent in by the listeners. So let's get into this right away here. First one is probably one of Zach's favorites here, Famous Jameis, right? Isn't that the nickname you dubbed him, Zach?
Yes, sir.
Can you kind of elaborate more on that nickname? Like why Famous Jameis?
I don't know. It sounded right. So I just called him that. I mean, his workouts are pretty famous on Instagram, on ESPN. I mean, he's getting famous for his unique workouts.
Yeah, I mean, Famous Jameis, I guess we're going to call him that, is an interesting one, right? Number one guy right now in New Orleans, and the fantasy outlook, right? I mean, there's a lot of upside here, right? Being our first quarterback, we're talking about a lot of these guys who might think have some upside. That's kind of why we chose them, might not. And I mean, Jameis Winston here is no exception with him right now, especially Superflex, right? The story is where you'd be looking at a guy like him, which all 4 of us, I mean, I'm a commissioner of a dynasty league here, Superflex. So, this probably is going to be a guy who will be started on a team. But going back to Jameis Winston, Jared, we're going to go to you right away. Fantasy outlook. What are you thinking here?
Well, the whole thing with me with Jameis was in 2019, he struggled with his interceptions, and that was kind of his big thing, how he had 30 interceptions, but last year, he cut that down to only 3. I know he had 14 touchdowns. I think that if he can stay out of the interception game that he's been, I mean, as of recently, he's been looking a lot better. But I think that with Michael Thomas coming back, depends on how healthy he is. He could have some huge upset, like you said. He has some weapons around him, and I think he could thrive really well in New Orleans.
Dustin, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
I mean, we got to hear
you mentioned.
Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
I'll just kind of go off what Jared said with his weapons. I mean, last year, who did he have? Marquez Callaway. Now he has Chris Olave. He has Michael Thomas. He has Jarvis. He's got probably top 10 weapons for sure in the NFL. And he was averaging around that 17 points per game mark before his injury.
Yeah, I think bringing up those points, I think the upside, right, for Jameis Winston, like, what do you guys think his ceiling is? Do you think he could crack in, the top 12 for quarterbacks? Is that a proper ceiling? Dustin, where are you looking with a guy like him?
Jameis is an interesting one because, like as you guys mentioned, he's got a lot of good targets now. So now he's got a very good opportunity, and he got his eyes fixed. Apparently, now he's all better. He got his eyes fixed, so he cut the interceptions down. I mean, I couldn't believe he used that as an excuse. He's like, "Oh, my eyes. Oh, it was my eyes." Oh, okay, Jameis, calm down. It's like we don't care. But I think he has every opportunity to be that top 12 quarterback, but it's going to all come down to if he can keep his interceptions down. If he can do that, I'll say he's top 12.
Yeah, I think that's a good way, to look at it with Jameis Winston. I think still the upside, like you guys have, like the weapons is the story, and we haven't seen this. Plus, he's Alvin Kamara. We don't know if there's going to be some sort of suspension yet coming for Kamara, but still throw that in. I mean, Kamara's a reception-heavy back, so I think there's certainly going to be some value there with Jameis. ADP-wise, to go on that. Zach, do you have the ADP up? Or
he's going as quarterback 22 according to Fantasy Pros. So with that placement, I like him as a kind of like you've been talking about with a high ceiling. I like him as a late round flyer if you get a safe quarterback first and then have him as your bench guy.
I'm all for that. Yeah. And especially right in my dynasty league here, right? Superflex, Zach, you have a dynasty league with Superflex as well. Right. I'm seeing him as QB 23 right now. He's actually in the range of the guy we're talking about next year. So, I mean, if you guys want to move on here from Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill is the guy. I mean, first to start, Who would you rather have, Tannehill or Winston? Is consensus Winston here? Or
Yeah, it's
what do you
Winston.
think,
Yeah.
Jared?
Yeah.
Dustin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Winston.
So think about that. Tannehill right now, at least in the ADP numbers I'm looking at, is going ahead of him here. It depends on what you're looking at, though. Like Sleeper has Winston ahead of Tannehill, but like Fantrax has Tannehill going at 132. So he's going 46 spots ahead of Jameis Winston on Fantrax. That is something. But going to Ryan Tannehill, you know, in his defense here, right? He's actually my super flex. He's my second guy. I mean, it's him and Mac Jones, Zach's Dynasty League. Don't know how I feel about it. I don't feel, you know, it's okay. But Ryan Tannehill there, I think his case, right? I mean, he was without Derrick Henry last year a little bit. AJ Brown. I mean, there's a lot of things that weren't going right. I mean, he was throwing to, you know, second and third string wide receivers in a system that he just didn't look great in. But looking now at this upcoming year, right? AJ Brown's traded. That definitely hurts his case. But Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Austin Hooper come in. So I think there's some better depth there. And overall, I think, you know, I know Tannehill had his worst year in terms of, right, a passer rating and such with the Titans. But I mean, fantasy outlook wise, Zach, what do you think for Ryan Tannehill?
I'm not a big fan of Ryan Tannehill just because I think the AJ Brown loss is a lot bigger, even though they did try and replace him. I still don't like the replacements. I think AJ Brown he's on another level than Robert Woods. Obviously, Treylon Burks is a rookie, so you can't expect him to do what AJ Brown has done. So I'm not a big fan of Tannehill. I think he's going to be in that maybe around the QB 25, but I'm not going to be drafting in many leagues.
So even in like a super flex, you don't think he cracks in the top 24? Wow.
Maybe super flex. Super flex is going to be on that edge, I think.
So I might be looking Mac Jones based on what you're saying, but I still got him. Dustin, let's hear it from you here, sir. What do you think about, you know, Ryan Tannehill here with the Titans?
I told you guys prior, but he is absolute garbage. He is terrible. I mean, like, he is terrible in every aspect of the game of football. The only thing he can do is run fast. Congratulations. He also suck at throwing. His only good thing is that he has Derrick Henry on his team. That's the only positive side to him. So say Derrick Henry goes on a tear again this next year, then yeah, his numbers will probably bump up. But that's the only way I see him cracking the top 20 of quarterbacks. Other than that, he's going to be well below.
I just see him as getting bailed out all the time by Henry. I mean, being a Colts fan, I hate the Titans, and I think that like you said, people think he's a bad quarterback, and people are finally starting to see that, which I like. It's hard because he is mobile, and that's kind of where he can get some of his, you know, fantasy value. But Henry kind of bails him out, like I said. He'll just go off for a run. But when he had AJ Brown, that was like the big thing. He would just throw it up, and Brown would come down with it. And he doesn't really have that guy this year, unless Burks can prove that he can be that guy. So I don't think going forward, Tannehill's the option. And they did draft Malik Willis, so maybe if he's not gonna start playing, he might go to the backup right away. So it might be a few years before that happens, but you never know.
Zach, you always talk consistency with you know, any position in fantasy, and let me tell you, Ryan Tannehill, and I had him last year. Started him kind of with Mac Jones, like I said, in that QB2 role in Superflex. This was not his thing. He scored only 20 plus fantasy points in 5 of 17 games, and only 3 when Derrick Henry was on the field. Of course, Derrick Henry missed injury, so consistency was a problem last year. It could be like that. It could be maybe a tad better, but I certainly think Ryan Tannehill is more of like a guy with a higher floor. I certainly don't see that ceiling with Tannehill. I just feel like he's kind of like that safe bet maybe in terms of a guy who, you know, he's not going to lose his starting job this year. I think I don't think Will's ready, and I just think Tannehill's kind of in a tier where, you know, he'll start all 17 games. Might be good, might be bad. I think that's kind of where you'd place Tannehill. What are you guys thinking with that? Fair?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, like I said, it might take a few years, but I don't think Malik Willis is in the best spot either to get some experience from Tannehill. So I don't know how that's going to work out there.
Yeah, I mean, from there, guys, let's go to a guy who might have a really high ceiling, but here the floor, like nobody knows where the floor could be like below us. I mean, like really, really far below us. And that is Trey Lance. Trey Lance of the San Francisco 49ers. mean, right now, Jimmy G is still a 49er. We don't even know if Trey Lance is going to be the starter, right? I mean, if we're really looking at it right now, Trey Lance, like I said, the upside is crazy, right? The ceiling in terms of the run game, right? I mean, he is talking about, we look for rushing upside now in quarterbacks. That's kind of the new thing, right? Josh Allen, like Herbert has had some rushing moments. Of course, Lamar, that crazy season back, and still, look, Trey Lance. Dustin, we'll start with you first. What do you see out of Trey Lance? And, what do you think, for this year? Where do you think we can see him crack in, even the top 20, let's say, if he's a starter? Where do you see Trey Lance?
Yeah, this is a really tough one to judge, obviously, because we haven't seen barely anything of Trey Lance yet, so we have no idea what he's capable of. But, this may be kind of a hot take, but I think if he plays and they use him as like a kind of a multi-dual quarterback, I think you can see him crack the top 10. I mean, easily. Seeing kind of with what he did last year with some of the rushing stats, and especially if he's scoring touchdowns rushing, like for a quarterback, that's huge. That's a lot of points right there that he's scoring. So that's like really high ceiling. That's like if he starts every game and he stays healthy. But I mean, realistically, I think you're thinking of maybe like low teens to high 20s, but for him, realistically.
That's a good place.
Yeah,
Zach.
I like that ceiling is top 10. Yeah, I like his rushing ability. And one of my favorite things has been in mock drafts to pair him with a quarterback like a Derek Carr, just because I think what you're going to get out of Derek Carr. And then Trey Lance can be that high upside guy that can fill in a couple weeks. And it's not like Trey Lance played terrible fantasy-wise. In the 3 games he did start last year, or played majority of the game, he averaged about 18 points a game, which I don't know about you guys, but I would take that from my quarterback.
For sure. Jared, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, he's not proven or anything. So 18 in 3 games in his career, I'll take that. It's only going to go up from there, I think. And I just think the 49ers might be making a risky move because, like, Jimmy G was proven. He just got him to the playoffs, beat the Packers. I know, moved on to the playoffs. Like, they've been there a few years now. So it's risky for me, but I think that Lance could be the person that they need to make the next step. So in the future, I think it could benefit them well. I just think that this first year, maybe first 2 years, might be a little shaky until he gets his feet under him, where he can finally develop as a top 15 or ceiling top 10 quarterback, like you guys said.
With Trey Lance, right? I think the magic number is 24. So 2 starts, he had 24 carries total in them, and that's kind of look at fantasy outlook rushing. I mean that points right away to Dustin, kind of where you put his ceiling at too. And Zach, go back to that pairing you were talking about with Carr and Lance. Are you talking about like a 1 quarterback, like kind of league, or what style are you talking?
I'm talking like, yeah, that'd be like a 1 quarterback league. If I decided to wait on quarterbacks, I'd get Derek Carr as my, I guess, quarterback 1, and then get Trey Lance as somebody that can kind of overtake Carr, but also just gives me somebody on the bench that I can go to a week or 2. Because I think Derek Carr is a pretty safe pick this year, and then Trey Lance is going to be a riskier pick.
I think Trey Lance is kind of, of course the risk is there, but like he kind of, has the similar tools that we kind of see out of those top rushing guys, or the guys who are getting bumped up right now in ADP. Like Jalen Hurts is the main one, right? I mean, Justin Fields was a guy actually we're going to talk about next. He's kind of a guy who has a similar kind of outlook in terms of, with Lance, that rushing upside. But I feel like, we know Fields is, the guy right now in Chicago. We still don't know with Jimmy G. Do you guys think Jimmy G's on the move? I guess where do you go? Where do you guys think they're going with that?
I've been expecting him to be traded all off season.
They said Lance is starter already, right? They named him
starter. Thought, yeah. I thought so.
Yeah, but with Jimmy G, because there's still opportunity for him to lose his job, though, Zach.
Yeah.
Is the thing. But unless they trade that. Jimmy G requested a trade,
with
though.
Jimmy's contract, that Jimmy's going to be gone. I think he'll be gone just with his contract.
It's mid-July.
He's a shoulder injury or something that they're waiting for.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting him to be traded all off season, to be honest. Like, even as I'd hate mentioning Colts, but like before we got Matt Ryan, I was looking at Jimmy G as a potential candidate to be our quarterback. I've been looking for him to be traded for months now, so I can't see them sticking with him. I think Lance will be the starter, but I think that if they don't get a lot for him, they could hold on to him, honestly. But they're gonna ask a lot for him. They're gonna ask a few picks, like maybe even 1st round picks for him.
Do you guys have a landing spot, Dustin? What are you thinking here with Jimmy G?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I think, obviously, like he requested a trade, but if the 49ers, really want to trade him, I think they're going to try to hold on to him as long as they can to see if Lance is their guy. Destination's hard because, like, I think it might come down to midseason. If somebody needs a quarterback, they're going to, put up a good number for him and maybe they'll trade him. But honestly, if it doesn't happen now, I don't think it'll happen for a while.
I think my destination would be Seattle Seahawks.
That's where I was thinking, Jared, which might sound weird. I mean, the Seahawks, you think they're going to win? I mean, they're not going to be like in the hunt, but like right now, Drew Lock and Geno Smith aren't necessarily, the most ideal guys to have under center. So it's an interesting situation. And right, if it would have happened, it would have happened like, I mean, Baker Mayfield happened just like last week, but like it feels like it would have happened maybe a little before then because right now we're starting to get into mid-July, practices start soon. It's almost that football season, right? So let's go to the next guy here, guys. Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears, who, look, he possesses a lot of upside as well on a team, that doesn't on the paper doesn't look the best, right? And I mean, they're in NFC North still. They lose Allen Robinson, but at the end of the day, I mean, they made some moves, right? Receiving wise. They just who they get today, or they got from the Patriots. Was it Harry?
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. N'Keal Harry
Yeah.
They got him, and well, I mean, right now Fields, he's got some, he's got Mooney, right? I mean, you throw that guy out there. Just looking right now with Fields, I guess he's kind of in a similar way. I think Zach, kind of how you mentioned, take a safer guy like Derek Carr. You could also then for your guy with a higher ceiling, maybe even go Justin Fields. I think the rushing upside is kind of what drags him along with that discussion. What do you think about
that? Yeah, so I don't know if we talked about ADP for Trey Lance. He's going to QB 14 and Justin Fields is going QB 17. So just with that little, I guess, range in between them, I think Lance is going to be safer than even Fields just because the team that's around him, the coaching staff, I think Lance is in a way better position than Fields is. And obviously, was it Matt Eberflus? I think he's a defensive guy. So, yeah, they didn't bring in an offensive coach to help out Justin Fields. And I think we could see something similar to what we saw last year, probably a little bit better put together of an offense. But I think he's a lot more risky than Trey Lance, even though Trey Lance is risky.
I mean, I'm a Justin Fields fantasy holder for the sleeper dynasty team that I was given, and I'm really not a fan of that. I've expressed my hate for the Bears on this podcast. I don't like the team. I don't like the player. I don't think he'll be good. As brutal as that sounds, I think that he's a worse version of Mitch Trubisky, which might say a lot.
Really?
Although he's not, I mean, he's young still, but I just don't like Fields. I think that last year he was one of the worst. I mean, there was a stat that I saw. I'm not going to like back myself up, but there was something I saw where he had like the worst efficiency, something like that. I don't know. But now losing Robinson and having Mooney as your number one, it's going to be hard for him. And I don't really see his career taking off anytime soon.
Dustin, where are you going with guy like Fields here? Let's hear it.
Well, anybody that knows me knows I made a whole video bashing him and how I thought he was pretty much trash. So, yeah, I mean, in fantasy, obviously the only upside he has is rushing ability, and this pains me to say it, but I think we're going to see him right around the 15 QB mark where, like, you might have to pick him up in a league just because he's going to get you those rushing yards, and it pains me to say because I hate this guy. I think he's terrible, and Bears will realize that he's a huge mistake.
I think fantasy-wise, right? I mean, we're looking at guys fantasy, not talent. I know, Dustin, you cover some guys talent-wise, right? Completely different here because that'll push up a guy like Justin Fields. I'm with you. I think he has a lot of upside, and I think it's mainly, if not all, because of his rushing ability. And I think that's going to kind of contribute to that. Cole Kmet's another guy who's, look, there's a lot of guys who are targeted as sleepers, but what happens is they're considered sleepers by so many. They're getting overvalued. I think Cole Kmet's been a guy who at the tight end position has been hyped up almost too much. I mean, I'll even throw Rashad Bateman in there. So I think that's another guy who everyone's saying he's a sleeper. He's a sleeper, but to what extent when everyone's calling him a sleeper, it doesn't sound like a sleeper to me. So that's I think Justin Fields still that's solid. I think his floor though, right? I mean, him and Lance are kind of in that same tier where the upside's there, but the floor, who knows where it is. So that's where I'd go with those guys. What do you guys think about wrapping up with Fields here?
I basically said everything I needed to. I mean, I think his ceiling is high. His rushing value, like his fantasy value, could be there. But me as an owner of him, I don't see him producing as much as I think he could this year because I just don't believe that he has it. I mean, bad team around him, not a strong head coach, and that's coming from a Colts fan who they got as their head coach. Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator. He's not offensive minded, like Zach said. It's just not going to be a good system for him, I don't think.
He likes losing the Jaguars once a year, right? That's that same coach?
He will, yeah. If they play the Jags, then he'll lose maybe twice.
Especially if it's in Jacksonville.
That's the tough place to play.
Dustin, all I gotta say is the Bears still suck. That's all I have to say.
All right, let's go to the last quarterback we'll talk about today. Zach, I might as well just let you talk about him. I should just, stop talking. You can say who it is.
Justin Herbert, QB1 in 2022.
You don't believe that yourself. No way you believe that.
Okay, Jared. So Fantasy Polls Now, which is a page on Instagram, they had a post where various fantasy pages kind of gave a bold take. And Fantasy Analysis predicted that Herbert has the best quarterback season since 2019. In 2019, Lamar put up 421 points in 15 games. Just to put that in a little bit of perspective, in 2021, Josh Allen, who was the quarterback one, had 417 in 17 games. So less points in 2 more games, and they think that Justin Herbert's going to have the best season.
So you brought the stats to back it up too. Okay.
I mean, to attest to that, Zach, Herbert, he's averaged at least 26.3 fantasy points per game in his 2 seasons in the NFL. I mean, if you're looking, right, the trajectory certainly could be up there. Well, do you know what they were averaging because he was averaging just shy of 30, I believe. I think in those seasons. Do we think that's kind of where Herbert's upside is at?
Last year, maybe not 30, but I can say upper 20s, maybe the 26, 27. Josh Allen was around 24.5 last year.
Yeah, but I'm saying if to put up Lamar levels though in terms of rushing, I mean he's gonna have to throw. Right, he threw 672 times last year. He's gonna have to throw. I think because I mean Herbert has the rushing ability, but I think he's gonna have to throw 700 plus times. Brady threw 719 last year. What do you guys think? How many
more rushing out of him this year?
You think we're gonna see more rushing? Dustin in this offense? I mean, do you think because Eckler's still in this offense too, right? I mean, they still have one of the most talented running backs in football. What is Herbert's path here to having that sort of season?
I mean, this is just going to be an aired out team. I mean, they are going to throw the heck out of the ball. I 100% agree. QB1 for Herbert. You guys may not like it, but I mean, Herbert has just wowed me this entire past year. Not, I may be a little biased because I got him in my dynasty, but I mean, just watching this dude throw. I mean, he's got such an arm on him. I mean, such raw talent. I mean, you put a couple pieces around him, give him a good defense. I don't see this guy having a problem getting QB1.
Yeah, Zach, you're probably so happy right now. Someone finally likes Herbert as much as you do.
I like Herbert here too. It's him and Allen for me. I think those two are gonna. But again, at the end of the day, I think Josh Allen will be running less. I think Buffalo is gonna have him running less, and I think that's gonna be the thing that really pushes Herbert over the top. Because as we've seen, quarterbacks who run the ball have that is a lot of fantasy value there. Imagine if Tom Brady got more of those two random rushing touchdowns he gets each year. Imagine his value. Because look, he's still, which we'll get to a mailbag question about Tom Brady later in the show here. But that is something. Imagine the upside there. It just shows how important running the ball is for quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert, is there anything else we have to say about this guy? QB1, maybe QB2. Jared, where do you have him? I guess if you're
I don't know. I've always so let me just get it straight. I know Herbert, the fantasy value is there. Team wise, he hasn't proven. that he can make the playoffs yet. I know it'll come. It'll come eventually. Not all his fault. Like we said, Brandon Staley goes for 2 a lot and it doesn't work out. But I think that for fantasy wise, he's going to be top 3. I just think I'm high on Josh Allen this year. Like we saw, we said that the Bills were going to be Super Bowl winners. I said that. I don't know what your prediction was, and I think, Patrick Mahomes is still Mahomes. He's mobile. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill. I know.
MVS, Juju.
Sky Moore. He's got
Kelce.
some weapons. Kelce, that's the big one. Yeah. So I think that Mahomes still passes him. I don't know if Herbert. He's proven. I mean, not proven playoff wise, but proven fantasy wise. If that makes sense. I think he's top 3, but I think that Mahomes and Allen might pass him up a little bit. But he could be 2. I don't know. Maybe just Mahomes, maybe just Allen, somewhere in there.
This can just be your bold take, Jared, I guess. Because
no.
Let's go to our bold takes here. We each chose a guy, and we're gonna give our hot take. I guess is kind of how we're playing it off as. Each give a quarterback. Talk about what we think they can do, and why, and we'll see who agrees with who, basically. So to start, Zach, let's go to you. Let's hear it.
So this is kind of fitting, I guess. Zach Wilson, top 15 fantasy quarterback. It's kind of fitting with my Jets picks.
Okay, let's hear it, Zach. ADP.
So Wilson had a little bit of a rough start to the season, but after he came back from his injury, he played a lot better. Last 5 weeks of the season, he didn't have a single pick, so that's some promising. He got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, so I think that's going to improve the Jets' offense a lot. More scoring opportunities. I've seen more yards going down the field, all that kind of stuff. And then against the Bucs, that was a big promising game that I was looking at. Obviously, it got overshadowed by the whole Antonio Brown situation where he was running off the field without a shirt. But Zach Wilson that game went 19 for 34, 234 yards and a touchdown. And we saw some rushing capabilities coming up at the end of the season too.
Okay, sorry, Zach. I hate to cut you off here, but can I just point out where Zach Wilson's getting drafted right now? He is getting drafted behind 10 defensive and special teams units. He's getting drafted right now, Zach, with Matt Prater. Should I continue? Brian Robinson is going around with him. And then
should I say top 20, not top 15, top 20.
He's getting drafted as QB
better?
24. So, I can get behind the top 20 movement. 15.
I think ceiling might be top 15 for his career, but not next year.
Yeah.
Jared's a Zach Wilson hater.
No, you just love him way too much.
Zach, Tyler Bass is getting drafted 10 spots ahead of him. I don't. Do I need to?
I mean, Jets are going 9-8, so I.
Okay, that's the way you're gonna
9-8.
He's too busy chasing Cougars instead of throwing the damn ball.
Okay. Jared, let's hear your hot take here.
Okay, well, mine is it might blow some of your minds. I know Zach will agree with part of it, but not the person that I have above him. So I think that Tua Tagovailoa will have a better season than Joe Burrow. Yeah,
Okay, let's hear it.
So I think
You're insane?
No, so Zach, you've been talking that Joe Burrow is going to have a regression, which we all think he's going to.
I think the team will have a regression.
We all mentioned that. Yes.
I don't think the team is going back to Super Bowl. That's what I was saying is a regression.
But what everyone is saying is that Tyreek Hill made the biggest mistake going to the Dolphins and that Tua can't throw the ball down the field. I've said this many times. Tua can. He proved it. He put out a second tape, a second, video that shows a lot better. I think Tua's going to shock a lot of people and go against everyone saying that Tyreek Hill made a bad mistake. And I think Burrow is going to have still a good season, but I think that Tua is going to finish probably as like a top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 7. And I think Burrow is going to fall maybe to 8-9. Yeah, that's my hot take.
Okay, you called me crazy for Wilson top 15, and you just said Tua top 10.
Yeah.
Tua right now is getting drafted as QB 16. To put that out there,
better than
I think Burrow and Tua will be closer than what they are right now, as Burrow's getting drafted as QB 5 and Tua's getting drafted as QB 16. But I don't think one will finish. Tua will finish better than Burrow. That's kind of where I stand on it. Dustin, where are your thoughts on these hot takes?
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, you both started out really hot. I mean, holy smokes, man. My eyebrows are fringed right now. Holy smokes. I can definitely get behind that take more than I can the Zach Wilson. Sorry, Zach. Sorry. But yeah, to compare him to Joe Burrow is a pretty hefty take. I mean, Joe Burrow, obviously, he's proven kind of everything he needs to. And I mean, Burrow also has so many weapons right now, just kind of a better team than Tua. Like, obviously, Tua has weapons, but like, I don't trust their offensive line at all. And just the coaching yet, I'm just not fully sold. So I guess I could see top 15 for Tua for sure, but I think top 10 is a little hefty.
I'm with you, Dustin. I
think if you would have said, Jared, if you had said Tua beats Aaron Rodgers fantasy wise, I think that would have been better than Burrow.
Didn't Rodgers still finish as 6? I think he was quarterback 6 last year. I think we went over that. I think he was right outside of the top 5.
He was, but again, he's without Devontae Adams. And I think that's going to be a more run-heavy team in 2022, 2023. But I think Tua, I think he's more on an upside kind of tier with Fields and Lance, right? I mean, point though, guys who you really don't know what you're going to get out of them. And I think Burrow's more of a guy who I think, we know we're going to get out of Burrow. I mean, he has 2 arguably guys who could finish top 12 in PPR on his team, and Higgins and Chase. I think that's kind of his big selling point. He's better weapons. Depends how Mike McDaniel, of course, uses a guy like Tua Tagovailoa. If that team, right now they have like three or four running backs who could really play during the game. So it depends on kind of how this team's going to attack, and if they use Tyreek Hill as a running back or however they're going to use him in sets with jet sweeps and whatnot. I think the question right now is more with first-year coach Mike McDaniel. But Dustin, let's hear your hot take, and then I'll share mine.
So, yeah, my hot take probably will not be as spicy as the last 2. I mean, it's kind of hard to top those. I mean, those are just insane. I mean, I think you got some insane guys here, but that's just me. But anyways, my hot take is that Russell Wilson will be a top 5 quarterback for fantasy football this next year. I think he's going to have a pretty big bounce back year. Obviously, he's got a lot of weapons, including a rushing game, a good offensive line. I think an okay coach. I mean, he's nothing crazy good, but he's a good coach. I mean, Russell Wilson, obviously, knowing what he can do with some good weapons, I think he'll have a really big bounce back year and get top 5.
So Russell Wilson, where is he getting drafted with the quarterbacks? He is getting drafted as QB9. So, a little jump there, but I can get behind it. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, throw him in there. The weapons are there, I think, for Wilson. And I know maybe that's just me maybe overvaluing them because now they have Russell Wilson and not Drew Lock. But
Zach likes Russell Wilson. He's got a little saying for him too. Zach,
let Russ cook.
There it is. Yeah. Zach loves Russell Wilson.
Wait, what'd you say?
I still let Russ cook. Is last year. I forget if it was I picked the Seahawks one week or if we were talking some betting things, but yeah, I took Russell Wilson's side one week.
And there you go. And he said let Russ cook, and boom, there it's stuck. I can get behind that a little bit, but here's mine. Mine kind of fits, saying a QB will finish in a top what range? Jalen Hurts will finish as a top 4 fantasy quarterback. I have him. Boom. Look, rushing value. I talked about it. Kind of crazy how that works. Finished as QB9 overall last season. And if you just look at the numbers, his 7.3 yards per attempt was higher than Ryan Tannehill, Tua Tagovailoa, and Josh Allen. Include that in there. And guess what? A.J. Brown is now a Philadelphia Eagle. The running game is inconsistent. And you know what the running game is? The running game is Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders has been talking about Mr. Inconsistency. That's who he is, and I think he will stay that. Look, Hurts, the beauty of his upside, he doesn't have to morph into a high-volume passer, a guy who has to throw the ball a bunch. He doesn't have to throw a ball 600, 700 times to become a top 4 quarterback. He just doesn't need to do that with his running ability, and I think that's where the value is there for me, and that's where I think he can fit into that. He had that left ankle injury last year too. Don't worry, surgery. He said he's good, and I'm all for it. I just with the rushing ability there, the rushing upside, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, those guys. My case says top 4. What do you guys think?
I think you forgot a key detail. Boston Scott is on the Eagles.
Yeah, that's good takeaway. Some rush attempts.
No, in all seriousness, I think I wouldn't say top 4. I could get behind some of it. I think that also having AJ is going to kind of affect in a bad way as well, because he was like you said, he was their mobile running back. Like he was all their rushing yards. But now AJ being there, I think he's going to be apt to throw the ball a lot more. So maybe he'll
more touchdowns. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll start forcing like what Rodgers did to Devontae last year. You know, maybe he'll think that he has to over target him because he's on the team now, rather than doing what he did last year, which was just running the ball and occasionally throwing to Goddard or whoever it was, Devontae Smith. So I see where you're coming from, but it might not be as, realistic as it could be, I guess.
Zach?
I don't think the hyper targeting Brown is going to be an issue. I think he spread the ball around pretty well last year when he did have to pass. And we saw Jalen Reagor drop how many passes and he still got targeted. And I guess Smith was their like clear cut number 1 last year, and I think they're still pretty well spread out. So I don't think that's really an issue. There's a lot of good quarterbacks. I think Tom Brady's going to be up there somewhere just because he's going to have so many pass attempts. We talked about Herbert, Josh Allen. I think Lamar's going to have a big bounce back. I don't know if he'll be top 4, but I think he has that potential as well.
Lamar's the other
so
one.
I think there's just a lot of competition.
I just think guys like Lamar and, Jalen Hurts, I'll throw it in here too. I think just they have more upside to kind of finish in that top 4, even than Patrick Mahomes, looking at what's happened here. Call me crazy, but I just think the stars are aligned for these guys to have big seasons. Dustin?
Yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't love it at the same time. Like I could see, he could maybe sneak in there, with a couple good running games and a couple good like decent passing games. But I would say that's like the absolute ceiling for him is 4. But I think a more realistic is kind of where he was last year, like 9, 8, 7. I think is more realistic. But yeah, I could get behind that a little bit.
There we go. Those are our hot takes. Flaming hot right off the stove. And let's go to a little mailbag here. We got 3 questions of quarterbacks we'll talk about. First one here is Derek from Brilliant. He wants to know, where do you rank Justin Herbert among the top QBs? Look, that's an easy one. We can say number 1. Look, or if you want to say number, in the top 2, or if you want to be like Jared and say top 3. It's
No, at the end I said top 2.
You're behind.
I'll say top 2. Yeah.
I'll say 1. I mean, right now, talk about having a big year. Look, Zach at the point, he's like, okay, he's number 1, but Zach's like, how historic is this number 1 gonna be? Is that? I mean, that's what I'm hearing over here, and yeah, I guess that's kind of where we are. In
I was just taking the quote from a different fantasy page on Instagram, but I think he's going to be him and Josh Allen clear cut 1 and 2 in my book. It's just a matter of who has a better season, I guess. I think they're both going to be really good.
I'm all for both of them. Brody from Brilliant's got another question, or has a question here. Who would be a steal of a QB for fantasy? So looking at which we'll do a sleeper episode, right? Coming. Who is a guy, each of us will pick a guy. Who's a guy who you think is just a steal? That kind of ties in some ADP numbers, right? So going through the ADP numbers for QBs and just, where they're getting drafted. Who are guys you think are steals? Zach, we're going to start with you.
I'm going to go with Derek Carr. I think with Adams, that's going to be a very pass-happy offense. I think he's going to be airing it out a lot more. He has Renfro and Adams now, along with Darren Waller. And he's kind of enjoyed coming out of the backfield. And he's always been, in my mind, he's been a pretty decent fantasy quarterback in the past. And now with the added weapon, I think he's going to be around that 7-8 range.
Jared, let's hear yours.
I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins. I think that with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they were both top 10 before Thielen got hurt last year. Rudolph is still there. He's got some upside there. He's got targets. I think that he could, perform pretty well. And I think if he's going later. If he's falling in your draft, you can pick him up. It'll be a good pick.
I had Kirk Cousins too. QB 15 right now is where he's at. I think it's top 12 upside. So I think that's kind of where I think he can finish 9 through 12 in that range. And that's kind of where I'll throw Kirk Cousins in there. Dustin, let's hear yours.
I think mine has to be Matt Stafford. I mean, I think people are just kind of sleeping on him a little too much still. Obviously he had a really good season last year, picked up more weapons on his offense. I mean, I don't see how this guy couldn't be top 10 again if he really wanted to.
QB 11 right now is Matt Stafford based on ADP. He's going right by Aaron Rodgers. So that seems interesting one there. Last one here from Phantasia Sports, proud partner of Drew Sports Crew. Tom Brady or Joe Burrow this year is what they want to know. Who are you taking? Jared, we'll go to you.
Well, I just said Tua's going to have a better season than Burrow, so I can't really say Burrow. So I'm going to say Tua. I think Brady, because I think, like we said, Burrow's going to regress. It might not be as much as I'm saying, because I said Tua's going to take over him, but I think Brady's still got 1 or 2 more years than him, where he's going to be still a top 10 quarterback. So I'm going to go Brady.
I'll take Brady. I think this is one. I just think he's gonna throw the ball 700 plus times, and I think just at that volume, I think you just gotta look at fantasy. I think that's gonna be it for Tom Brady.
Dustin, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go. I think I'm gonna go Burrow on this one. I think Brady losing Gronk is gonna be a much bigger impact than people think, and obviously with Godwin not sure when he's gonna come back. All his early guys, Mike Evans, and I don't really think that's enough for him to, really step it up again this year.
I was hoping you were going to say Burrow, so I wasn't the only one. I'm going to go Burrow as well. He has the probably best weapons in the NFL. And then, obviously, like you mentioned, Dustin, Godwin's out, so that's going to hurt Brady a little bit at the beginning of the year. He doesn't have Antonio Brown as much of a headache as he was last year. He still produced on the field. So their third wide receiver, Russell Gage, isn't at the same level. So just having those 2 receivers, once Godwin comes back, and then before he comes back, they just have Russell Gage and Mike Evans. So I think the weapons are going to make difference for Burrow.
There you go. Oh, Jared,
I
go
can
ahead.
see both sides here, but I just want to add, back in 2020 was when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. Yeah. Back then, I thought when they went in, I was like, maybe I'm doubting him a little bit. Maybe Brady's still the elite quarterback he is, and he proved me wrong there. So I can't see him being much worse than last year. Do you know where he finished ADP? Did we say last year? 3. And Burrow
Last
was
year
what?
finished
Like
as 3.
Burrow was like 6?
He was
No,
8.
7?
He is
8?
6.
No.
8.
He finished as QB8 last year, Zach.
He is 8.
I think as long as Brady's in the league,
Yep.
he's going to be top 5, I think.
Okay. And that wraps up the questions. So thank you guys for sending them in. Make sure for our tight end episode, send in questions. We'll open another mailbag for that. But before we go here, we got to talk about Thrive Fantasy. You got to come prop up with us. I'm wearing the shirt right now, Thrive Fantasy. I got prop up on the back. Look, we are almost to 20 people on Thrive Fantasy. You know what that means. Every 10 people, we give away an autographed card. Josh Hader, we talked about last week, an autograph numbered out of 299. This is a nice card. And look, if you want to get your hands on that, win that card, you got to come prop up with us. Join us on Thrive Fantasy. Promo code J2M then on the app. Just put that in. When you sign up, when you deposit, boom. All you have to do is deposit $10. They'll give you a deposit match, and they also give you, 2 free contest entries if you deposit $10. So that's a look right there. $10, you're getting all that value right there. It doesn't get any better than that. And look, Jared, I always go to you right away because you just keep winning on Thrive. I've been winning my fair share of contests here and there, my prop up entries, but how's it been going for you?
We talked to Thrive, and I told them about the whole strikeout thing to add more strikeout lines, and they have done that. So the other day I took a few strikeout lines, hit again, won another, a couple bucks, but yeah, same as last time. It's been fun. Really easy. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy app to use, and I don't see myself not using it in the future. So it's really fun.
Dustin, you should come prop up with us. That's kind of where we're going here. You got to come join us on Thrive. Even Zach's
Oh,
winning.
that's gonna be a dangerous game, man. That's gonna be dangerous once I get started.
Yeah, there you go, Zach.
You just got to keep winning.
Thank you, Zach.
Zach's
that was
losing streak.
insightful.
Look, to point to Zach's losing streak last football season, hopefully he doesn't have the same here, because when we do our Journey a Million 3-leg entries where we each take a leg, it's going to be Zach's who loses it every time. But look, Dustin, you got to talk about what you got going on. I mean, we mentioned Lockdown Corner podcast is kind of what you've been rolling out, and you guys do some great things on there. I myself was a guest on the show. Well, it's a great show. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of Packers stuff we talk about. And what do you guys have planned?
Yeah, so we're gonna probably head up another podcast next week sometime. We'll probably talk about kind of some of the stuff that's been going on in the off season, kind of preview this coming season, kind of give our takes on it, and maybe we'll have somebody on near future. Drew will probably be on. Maybe you guys will be on too. Get a little joint meeting going on. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, they know their stuff, Dustin. I mean, he analyzes guys. He looks at the talent, like he mentioned. He does videos there. He's looked at Justin Fields. He'll look at guys. Maybe not the fantasy outlook that we would do, but he'll evaluate them if you're looking at talent, right? I mean, he'll give you that in-depth scouting report and just tell you guys what's the scoop with these guys. So go check him out. But our social medias as well. Then Drew Sports Crew on the Instagram, Drew Sports Crew on YouTube and Facebook. So that'll wrap it up here for the Journey to Million Squad and Dustin. So thank you all for listening to yet another edition of Drew Sports Crew, the Journey to Million, the perfect podcast for you.